For many decades in recent history of modern construction, heavy and commercial and industrial construction alike, there exists a tension between the level of detail of drawings and the actual constructability of what has to be drawn or has to be built. This is easy to understand if you consider that as recently as 20 years ago, drawings were still completed by hand, and the architects and engineers as craftspeople applied their skill and energy into working out details that would be duplicated in construction. Time to complete the drawings and build customized specification was far greater, and oftentimes the architect and engineer had a greater authority over the plans examiners and the construction team to ensure what was built met the details that were carefully drawn out. The architect was far more invested in his craft at that time, down to the details. This, combined with higher fees and more time to complete, meant drawing details were painstakingly worked out. This was not always the case, but by and large was the majority of the case. With an increase in oversight from chief building officials, added complexity of building codes, reduced design timelines, and reduced fees all combined to be a demotivator to skip quality control measures using the tender and permitting process to flush out errors or omissions. The design professionals have adapted in many cases the policy of providing only as much detail as needed to convey the minimum amount required for construction. This is seen also in the contract documents CCDC produces. The CCDC standard contracts clearly delineate that the contractor shall be in charge of all methods, means, and materials required to meet the intent of the contract documents, of which drawings form a part. As a source of growing frustration of the construction team, having detailed plans sufficiently and accurate enough to cost out all of the required components is increasingly problematic in general. The same can be said for specifications, which have gone through their own transformation as manufacturers seeking a competitive advantage have undertaken to provide materials and methods that are proprietary, either through material testing standards or composition. This can cause great confusion when trying to ensure a competitive bidding environment exists for all products and materials being used, and in order to protect the owner's inherent desire to maximize value and life cycle of their facilities for the lowest possible cost. For reasons stated earlier, where consultants are seeing a decline in fee arrangements overall, the substitution of alternate products becomes cumbersome during that 2 or 3 week tender process. All of these forces acting together has led to the distinction between design intent and ultimately constructability. A sense that it will get worked out on site becomes the overriding concern and the new normal. Not squaring, however, with the need for fixed pricing at tender stage, so that's where the conflict happens. Understanding that the new normal is to convey intent on drawings and in specifications, the construction estimator must push for clarifications during the tender stage to reduce risk of making a decision that will months down the road lead to challenges on site. Cooperation, leadership by the consulting team and traditional delivery models to ensure all bidders have what they need is critical. This change, of course, with different project delivery models, which we'll talk about later on in the course. So each has its own set of circumstances. Design build contract documents prepared by the consultants, for example, may only need to show the minimum amount of detail. The builder already knows what they're going to construct. The objective is to put into context the right level of detail needed to ensure a smooth flow of instruction to the trade contractors.